Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. This series helps you prepare for the CompTIA Security Plus exam with focused explanations and practical context. For a companion study guide, check out the Achieve CompTIA Security Plus 701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. It is the most concise and complete Security Plus guide on the market, built for busy professionals who want to pass the exam fast and on their first try. You can find this book and others at cyberauthor.me. Managing multiple passwords is one of the biggest pain points in digital security for users and administrators alike. The more accounts a person has, the more likely they are to reuse passwords, forget credentials, or write them down in unsafe ways. That's where single sign-on comes in. Known as SSO, single sign-on is a way to streamline authentication, improve the user experience, and reduce the attack surface. In this episode, we'll explore the fundamentals of SSO, its security benefits and risks, and the protocols that make it work, specifically LDAP, OAuth, and SAML. Let's begin with SSO fundamentals. At its core, single sign-on allows users to authenticate once and then gain access to multiple systems or applications without logging in again. This works by establishing a trusted relationship between an identity provider and one or more service providers. After a successful login, the identity provider issues a token or assertion that the user is authenticated. Other systems then accept that assertion and allow access. The most obvious benefit of SSO is convenience. Users only have to remember one set of credentials and authenticate once per session. This reduces password fatigue and helps prevent insecure practices like writing down passwords or using simple, easy-to-guess combinations. From the organization's perspective, SSO also reduces help desk workload, especially password reset requests. But SSO does more than simplify logins. It improves security when combined with strong authentication methods. If a user has to log in just once per session, that login process can include multi-factor authentication, certificate checks, or biometric verification. By concentrating authentication in a single secure flow, SSO makes it easier to enforce high-assurance identity validation. Let's look at a real-world example. A large healthcare system implements SSO for its staff. Nurses, doctors, and administrative personnel authenticate once at the start of their shift. From there, they can access the electronic health record system, internal messaging tools, scheduling portals, and even cloud-based productivity apps without having to re-enter credentials. Access is granted based on a secure token issued by the hospital's identity provider. If a user logs out or steps away, a timeout policy ends the session. The result is better security and a smoother workflow. That said, SSO comes with some risks. The most serious is the single point of failure. If an attacker compromises the user's primary account, they gain access to all connected systems. That's why strong authentication, session management, and account monitoring are critical in SSO deployments. You must also have clear policies for logging out, revoking tokens, and terminating sessions on demand. Another risk is token theft. If authentication tokens are not properly protected, they can be intercepted and reused by attackers. That's why secure transport, session encryption, and browser protections are necessary to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks or cross-site scripting exploits. Let's now turn to the protocols that make SSO possible. First up is LDAP, the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. LDAP is not an SSO protocol by itself, but it plays a key role in authenticating users and managing identity information. LAP is used by directory services such as Microsoft Active Directory and OpenLAP. When a user logs in, the system queries the LDAP directory to verify their credentials and retrieve user attributes such as group memberships, roles, and permissions. LDAP allows centralized authentication across multiple services, making it a foundational component in many SSO environments. For example, an organization may configure its email system, intranet, and file servers to authenticate users against a central LDAP directory. When users log into one system, the LDAP credentials are validated and their profile is retrieved. Other systems then rely on that same directory for consistent role-based access. Next, let's talk about OAuth. OAuth is an open standard for authorization, commonly used for granting third-party applications limited access to a user's resources without exposing their credentials. It's widely used in cloud services, social media logins, and mobile apps. Here's how OAuth works in practice. Let's say you want to use a new calendar app that can access your Google Calendar. Instead of entering your Google password into the new app, OAuth redirects you to Google, where you log in directly. Once authenticated, Google asks if you want to grant the app access to your calendar. If you approve, Google issues an access token to the app, allowing it to interact with your calendar without ever knowing your password. OAuth improves security by separating authentication from authorization. The third-party app never sees your credentials, and you can revoke its access at any time. This limits the risk of credential theft and gives users control over what apps can do on their behalf. However, OAuth is often misunderstood. It is an authorization framework, not an authentication protocol. By itself, OAuth doesn't prove the user's identity. It just proves that the user granted access. That's why it's often paired with OpenID Connect, which adds authentication functionality on top of OAuth for single sign-on scenarios. Now let's move to SAML, the Security Assertion Markup Language. SAML is a widely used protocol for single sign-on in enterprise and government environments. It allows users to authenticate through a central identity provider and then access multiple systems with a single set of credentials. SAML works by exchanging XML-based assertions between an identity provider and a service provider. When a user tries to access a service, they're redirected to the identity provider. After logging in, the identity provider generates a SAML assertion that confirms the user's identity. The service provider accepts that assertion and grants access without requiring another login. Let's take a real-world example. A law firm uses a cloud-based case management system and a separate time-tracking application. With SAML-based SSO, attorneys log in once through the firm's identity provider. When they launch either application, the system accepts the SAML assertion and logs them in automatically. This saves time, reduces password reuse, and allows the firm to enforce consistent authentication policies. SAML supports strong authentication, role-based access control, and detailed logging. It's especially useful in large organizations where users need to access a variety of on-premises and cloud-based services. However, SAML can be complex to implement. It requires careful configuration of identity and service providers, certificate management, and strict time synchronization. To summarize, single sign-on improves security and user experience by allowing users to authenticate once and access multiple systems. LDAP provides the identity foundation. OAuth supports delegated authorization, and SAML delivers secure, standards-based federation. When combined, these protocols streamline access, reduce credential sprawl, and support secure, centralized authentication workflows. For the Security Plus exam, expect questions about the benefits and risks of single sign-on, how different SSO protocols function, and how they support secure access. You may be asked to choose between LDAP, OAuth, and SAML for a specific scenario, or to troubleshoot a login flow using identity federation. Review terms like access token, assertion, identity provider, service provider, delegated authorization, and authentication flow. They're all important and frequently tested. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.